Good evening everybody. On behalf of the School of Engineering and Technology, Indira Gandhi National Open University, I, Rakhi Sharma, Program Coordinator of ACPDM, welcome you all in this interactive teleconferencing program of Advanced Certificate in Power Distribution Management. In this session, we will discuss about the energy scenario and the distribution reforms. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce and welcome our expert of this session. We have Professor D.P. Kothari, from Center of Energy Studies, IIT Delhi, and the former director of IIT Delhi, and the Vice Chancellor designated Vellore Institute of Technology. I would request Professor Kothari to take up today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahi. Good evening, friends. Today, let's start talking about energy scenario, energy problems facing the third world and their probable solutions. Third world can be categorized into three categories: fast developing, developing, and underdeveloped. As far as India is concerned, we are developed in many respects. For example, we are the second largest scientific and technological manpower in the world. We are the IT capital of the world, and we belong to the exclusive space club, which can send their own space vehicle to the skies. Then we are nuclear power and so on. But as far as energy is concerned, at best we can say we are fast developing. What are the main problems? The main problems India is facing is population growth. The population in India is rising exponentially, and all of you know that anything that rises exponentially is cancerous. In fact, the billionth baby was born on 12th of August 2004 in Safdarjung Hospital, and we are adding one in Australia and 4 New Zealand every year. And with this, we are soon going to overtake China, I think, in the near future. So we have to somehow control this, and we only adopt voluntary measures. Load growth, the second problem. As if one exponentially rising function is not enough, we have a second function which is also rising exponentially called load. And sometimes it is unplanned, so it creates problem. The third is a stable government. If we do not have a stable government, naturally we cannot plan anything. And so for planning we have to have a stable government. And luckily at the moment we have a stable government, so we are able to plan the energy also in a proper way. Resources, being a developing country, resources is always a problem. For example, each 1 megawatt generation needs 4 crores rupees, and on the same megawatt to be transmitted, we need another 4 crores. And so we are inviting the private capital or foreign direct investment in energy sector as well. We welcome it. Power crunch is another big headache in India. It has become a harsh reality. In fact, there is no city, there is no day when power does not go. So much so, we are used to it, that if someday power doesn't go, we feel really very bad about it, and as if we are waiting for it to happen. Per capita energy consumption is one of the important indicator of country's progress. We are about 700 units per kilowatt hour, and look at the US, it is 24,000 units, UK is 8,000, Norway, Sweden is highest. It's more than the best in the world. And somehow, since this is an indicator of progress, we want to make it 1,000 by 2010. Let's see whether we are able to achieve that or not. Energy management. Nowadays, management is very important topic, and anything that is scarce, we have to manage it properly. So there are several techniques for energy management, and let us talk about them one by one after some time. The total installed capacity when India got freedom in 1947 was a meager 1360 megawatt. Now it has reached 130,000 megawatt in 2007, and our aim is to make it about 200,000 megawatt by 2010. In fact, the past president Dr. Abdul Kalam wanted by 2012 energy for all, energy forever, and if you want to achieve this, we had to follow the electricity reforms. generation, transmission and distribution. Distribution reforms we'll be talking after some time. Meanwhile, let us continue about the means to achieve better management. And these all four means are free of charge. There is no money required. Incentives to farmers, industries to accept power during the light load period. After all, all of you know that cheap airlines fly. Even when cheap airlines are not there, Air India and Indian Airlines used to fly in the night time at a cheaper rate. So different time zones like US, Australia, USSR, they have different time zones. If you recall, before 47, whole India was having one time. Peshawar, Lahore, Delhi, Kanpur, Calcutta and Dhaka was having the same time. Now the Bangladesh is half an hour ahead of us and Pakistan is half an hour behind us. So if you divide the India into three parts further, the Western India can have Pakistan time, the Eastern India can have Bangladesh time, and Central India can continue to have the present Indian Standard Time. That will make a peak to occur at three different times, three small peaks. So we will be able to supply that much energy. Now generation scenario, we have conventional generation as well as non-conventional. In conventional we have thermal, that means fuel is coal or oil or gas, and in hydro of course water is there, and we have 80,000 megawatt hydro potential in the country. However, somehow we are not able to utilize it, and we should do that. Nuclear, all of you are familiar about the nuclear deal which will be signed soon. Once a 1 to 3 nuclear deal is through, we will be free to have more and more nuclear power. When France can have a 2/3 of their power generation by nuclear, why India cannot have it? I think if our aim is to supply power to every Indian, we have to go in a big way in capacity addition soon, as early as possible. Well, renewable energy at the moment is very small amount, but that's the only way of sustainable energy. So we have to go in a big way, and hopefully by 2010 the aim is to make it 10%. Incidentally, India is the only country in the world having a full-fledged ministry on non-conventional energy sources, and MNES or MNR is doing a wonderful job in that. What are the different renewable energy sources? We'll talk after some time. Well, energy conservation. All of you know that energy conservation is the best way of energy generation. Let us save as much as possible. See, $1 or rupee saved is more than $1 rupee earned. Because of saving, there is no income tax. If you earn, you have to pay income tax. Similarly, if you generate power, there is a loss, there is a pollution associated. But if you save 1 megawatt, there is no cost, there is no pollution. What are the new sources of power? The solar energy I was talking about it just now. We are very lucky to have 300 days out of 365 days, lot of solar energy in India. And in fact, Jodhpur is called Sun City. So why not use the solar energy to generate power by solar thermal route or photovoltaic route? It's not necessary to generate power only. We can use solar energy to avoid the use of electric energy. For example, solar cooker. And all our villages, the power has not yet reached. So renewable energy is the best answer, so that every villager can also have his sons and daughters study under the lamp. They can also enjoy TV. They can also use their laptop or computers as we do in urban areas. So as I said, solar cooker, we can have a solar refrigeration, we can have a solar water heaters. So in winter, whenever there is a winter in India, at least in North India, we need hot water. So avoid geyser uses and avoid paying large amount of bill and save electricity and use solar water heaters. In fact, we should have a zero energy buildings. Whatever requirement of a particular energy in a building, that building should be able to generate that energy. If you can do that, then there will be no need of extra power from outside. And this is possible by having a rooftop power station. Every building has a roof, so have a solar photovoltaic power station or wind power station on the rooftop, which will supply the energy to that particular building, and so that we don't have to really take energy from the grid. Photovoltaic is very cheap. This photo cells and it can generate power, DC power, use inverter to get AC power. Well, wind is the second oldest power generation in the world after the fire. Fire was used by Adi Manav for light as well as cooking. After that, wind, all of you remember the people used to travel from one country to another in the ship. And even today you will feel that when you come from Delhi to Bombay or Bombay to Delhi in air, one way it is 15 minutes shorter. That is thanks to the wind energy. Now we are having 5th largest wind power in the world. After Denmark started it, then US, then Germany. The Tamil Nadu and Gujarat have a lot of wind power generation. Tamil Nadu in fact 60% and Gujarat 20% and rest 20% rest of the India. And there is a horizontal axis turbine and there is a vertical axis turbine. Sea waves, you can also generate power from sea. And the wonderful station is there in Miami, and there is a time difference between the two. Level in the sea, and 17.5 degrees centigrade time is the temperature difference, and this can be exploited to generate power. What's the main problem with renewable energy sources? They are fluctuating and sources are also fluctuating, and load is also fluctuating. So there is a jugalbandi going on between the sources and the load. Well, hydropower, as I said, the large hydropower has a large problems. We have not been able to add after Bhakra any other big hydropower plant. Of course, there is a private sector, Jayaprakash and other groups. They are building power plants in Sikkim area and Himachal Pradesh. So if you can exploit our all hydropower, there will be no shortages and there will be in fact surplus throughout the country. And we are going in a big way. But large hydro have large problems. You need a lot of money. Then there is a seepage. Then there is a rehabilitation of people who will vacate these villages for reservoir. So why not go for small hydro? This is the age of, they say small is beautiful. So we are talking about nano nowadays, nanotechnology. So nano hydropower plants, pico hydropower plants, mini hydropower plants, micro hydropower plants, up to 25 megawatt. In fact, recently a success story was telecast on one of the channels in Himachal Pradesh. There is a 25 megawatt mini hydropower plant. Everybody contributes to running of that hydropower plant. So there will be no metering. It's a pro rata basis and successful experiment. And if that can be repeated everywhere in every village, there will be no power shortage and there will be no problem. Well, geothermal energy is very important. Started in Italy in 1904. Today New Zealand 8% power generation is by geothermal. In India we have two such places in Kashmir, Chamantang and Pangaveli. All of you who have visited Sona, they know there is a hot water spring is there. If you put a rice there, it will be cooked in no time. So what you do, you take two large pipes 1 kilometer long, and you take one water inside and the steam will come out. Directly this steam can be fed to turbine and power is generated and there will be no pollution. MHD is very good way of generating power. There is only one conversion directly from chemical to electrical rather than chemical to mechanical to electrical. So efficiency is better than conventional thermal power plant. Well, this is talking about the coal. Since we are Indian coal is having a lot of ash, so to remove ash, how do you remove ash? By electrostatic precipitators. But all of you know enough chemistry to understand if you burn coal, these gases are formed because of oxidation, CO, CO2, NOx and SO2. And these gases are injurious to health. They spoil buildings, they spoil human health. So there is a Clean Air Act was passed in US in 1970. In India it was 1886. So that the amount of pollution should be limited to a certain extent. Well, the story doesn't stop here. These gases have friendship with water vapor. When they combine with water vapor, acids are formed and these acids come down and that is called acid rain. Well, fusion, once fusion becomes a success, there will be no problem. We'll have infinite amount of power available. Yet the first fusion reactor to become success. People are trying, Japan, US, etc., etc. Another problem in this country is the maintenance. We don't maintain ourselves. Where is the question of maintaining power plants and any industries? So unless until you maintain properly, even your bathtub curve is not valid, your power plants won't be available for most of the time. Well, energy storage. You can't generate energy and store it. So you have to generate it as and when you need it. So nowadays the energy storage is a very important problem. There is a pump storage way, there is a compressed air, there is a fuel cell, there is a hydrogen storage, there is a secondary battery. The future belongs to hydrogen and fuel cell. The cars are also running by hydrogen and fuel cell. Well, distributed and dispersed power system, these are small power systems, so that there is no transmission. Go wherever there is a load, have a smaller power plant, so that there is no T&D loss. When there is no transmission lines, there is no question of T&D losses. Well, rural electrification. India lives in villages, so Gandhiji used to say. We have 7 lakhs of villages, and yet only 85% of villages have been electrified. In a lighter vein, people say if transmission line is passing through a village, they declare it to be electrified. But that's not good. We have to really electrify them. So that's why distribution reforms is very important, so that each village gets power, so that everybody staying in a village also gets power. Well, renewable energy, I have carried out SWOT analysis. The main thing is here, the government and the private sector has to put more and more money to find out ways and means to generate power using solar, wind, microhydel, etc., etc. Well, we have talked about the first part of the lecture regarding the energy scenario. Well, there is a hope soon we will be having, will be able to provide energy forever, energy for all. And the per capita energy consumption should touch 1000 kilowatt hour, and the total installed capacity should become about 200,000 megawatts soon. Well, the distribution reforms. The reforms started in US, in California, and there were some problems. We started with Orissa. Anything new, there is always a problem, but then now it is a success story. So India has passed a electricity bill 2003, and according to that, see, lack of optimum utilization of the existing generation capacity. I was talking in the first part of the lecture about generation capacity. Even the available generation capacity of 130,000 megawatt, we are not able to utilize properly, and that's why we have to worry about it, we have to think about it. Inadequate and aging sub-transmission and distribution network. They are old and they are aging. So we have to retrofit and make it proper. Slow pace of rural, we have already talked about rural electrification. We said 85%. Let's see, we want to make it 100%. How soon will we be able to do it? That's a question of reforms. The objective is to meet the demand fully. Whatever demand comes, since they pay money for the electricity, it is our duty. It's our obligations. The electric utilities are obligated to supply power as and when there is a demand. And improve reliability, we have to make it more and more. I was talking about the power shortages, and we have to remove them as early as possible. And power quality is a very important topic nowadays. Everybody is working on this. The voltage variation, all of you must have studied, should be plus minus 5%. But in India, unfortunately, it is plus minus infinity. What is the meaning of this? A 220 volt supply can go as high as 270 in a low power period, or it can go to 170 volts in a high load period. So we have to make it less. How do you make it? There are facts. There is a static VAR system, there is a capacitors, and so on. Then frequency should be around 50 Hertz. The allowable variation is plus minus 0.5 Hertz. Unfortunately, it also goes up to 47 to 53 in our country. So we have to control this frequency by automatic generation control, by using this LFC, load frequency control. And to ensure minimum lifeline consumption of 1 unit per household per day, I have already talked about 2012. Well, what are the problems currently our distribution sector is facing? Lack of commercial orientation. We have to be aggressive, like in sports, we have to win. You have just seen the Chak De India. We have to check the power also. You know, we have to find out how to get power and how to supply it and let us reach consumer. The T&D losses, unfortunately, now renamed as theft and dacoity losses. So how to reduce this theft and dacoity? That's what the government and everybody is worried about. And the best way to do is to see that the meters run. Ours is the very special country where all auto and taxi meters are fast and all energy meters are slow. So we have to see that there is no tampering of energy meters and people. In fact, there is a billing is also a problem. The correct billing has to be there, and the proper bill should reach the consumer, and consumer should pay it in a proper way. So billing is another important point in our reform in distribution sector. The proper billing, proper metering, and metering should be perfect, the tamper-proof. The low investment in T&D as compared to generation sector is given always more preference. So we have to give the equal importance and preference to transmission sector as well as distribution sectors. That's a key factor of distribution reforms. Poor work culture, that's a problem. We have to improve the work culture. The type of work we do when we go abroad, we have to think that India is also abroad, and whatever money we get, we have to work for it. And work culture has to improve. As it is a 5-day week, so we have to work every day properly so that there is an output and there is a proper contribution of everyone. Reforms initiated in year 2000 in distribution sector for distancing the power utilities from state control, attracting private investments. More and more private investments should come. The introducing competition is a key word in any reforms. See, if there is no competition, there is no incentive to work hard. The competition brings the best out of everybody, and that's why the reforms are being done in every sector, not only power, education, everywhere. You see, there are private education institutions that are coming, and once there is a competition, it brings best out of you. The distribution reforms in India. Ambit of electricity distribution reforms in India primarily revolves around system upgradation of sub-transmission and distribution. Loss reduction, we have just talked about losses. They are about 30 to 40%, which is highest in the world. We have to bring it back down to 5 to 10%. So, point is, how do we achieve this? First of all, whatever generation is there, we have to feed it to the transmission sector, and from transmission reforms are also there now. There is an open access. Earlier it was government transmission, the power grid is responsible to transmit power from one place to another, and we will soon have a national grid. So far India has 5 regional grids. You must be knowing it, you must have read it also. NREB, North Regional Electricity Board, West Region Electricity Board, South Region Electricity Board, East Region Electricity Board. Then we have Northeast Region Electricity Board. We are giving special attention and importance to Northeastern region in every sphere of life, and power sector is no exception. As I told you some time back, there is a lot of hydropower there. Those Assam and those 7 states are full of water resources. Why not exploit them? Why not create more and more hydropower? And then the HVDC, the another very important technology which now the India is having it with it, and there is an HVDC line from Assam to Bangalore which can transmit 2000 megawatt, so that wherever there is a power shortage area, we can get power from one part of the India to another part, so that everybody gets the fruits of more and more power. See, if you want to have progress, you want to have more and more industries, naturally you need energy. Without energy, even your IT sector won't work. See, nowadays, as I told you in the beginning, we are the ICT capital of the world. What is ICT? Information and Communication Technology. The Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mohali, Greater Noida, Gurgaon, all these are the key centers of ICT, Information and Communication Technology. So, if you need, even computer cannot work without electricity, and that's why energy is very important. And rural, we have been talking, the government of India is now trying to see that every village there is a project called Hole in the Wall, so that if a computer is kept there, the children in the villages can come and start learning that. They start giving their communication, email from one. The whole idea is to have a wireless and paperless society throughout the India, so that we use less and less electricity, and so we conserve, we save electricity, so that everybody out of the 1.3 billion Indians is able to utilize electricity and enjoy the fruits of electric power. T&D, we were talking transmission and distribution. Well, to bring it from 30 to 40% to 5%, well, there are technical ways of doing it. As I was telling you, why not use a compensation in distribution sector? How do you use compensation? In fact, the distribution sector is much more important than the transmission and generation, in the sense that is a sector which really gets connected to consumers. Your home, you get power through the pole right in front of your house or nearby your house. So that's a sub-distribution level. And if that is good, your power coming to your house will be, or your industry 11 kV, or your house is 220 volts, will be of better quality. So you will enjoy your life in a better way. Your TV, your fridge, your air conditioner work in a proper way. You don't have to spend extra money for USP or voltage stabilizer, and the power loss will also be low. So this is what we have to think. We have to adopt the new technology, the latest technology. We were talking about HVDC. There is a back-to-back connection in HVDC also. There is a long line. There is one particular HVDC line is going from UP to Delhi. So that also is going to serve Delhi region. I was talking about the 5 regional electricity boards. They are loosely connected. Once they are firmly connected, we will be having a national grid. As per Power Grid, the national grid will soon be a reality, maybe by 2010. Once you have a national grid, then in theory you can supply power from Srinagar to Kanyakumari, and that means wherever there is a shortage of power, that will get compensated by a power surplus state, and there again a distribution will play a greater role along with the transmission and generation. Well, management is very important nowadays. Practically everybody wants to do MBA, and what is the crux of management? The consumer. The consumer is very important. If consumer is happy, then only you will be able to. That's what competition will do. A particular electricity company is not doing job well, the consumer will be free to change its electric company, and that is a main key part of distribution reforms. Like if you don't want Colgate, you go for Pepsodent. If you don't like a particular brand of the car, you change the car brand. Similarly, for any particular thing, for example pen or any copy or anything in house, if you don't like it, next time when you go to purchase, you change the brand, you change the type, so that the consumer satisfaction is so much important. If he is not satisfied, he is likely to tell 10 other people that look, that thing is not good. So consumers delight, not only satisfaction, you have to do a delight part of it, and you have to create a brand sort of thing. For example, if somebody wants Coca-Cola, he is not getting it, he will go some few kilometers away to get that. Similarly, your electric company and distribution company should develop in such a way its PR relations, so that the consumer comes to it and say, I want your connection. That's the beauty about reform. Securing reliable and quality supply at reasonable, affordable prices. The price, as I said, ours is a developing country. The people are not rich. Our per capita income is not very high. So their limited income, their electricity bill should be as less as possible, as low as possible. Of course, it depends on the consumption. So you have to go for energy conservation also. You have to clean your power devices of your home. You don't have to necessarily wait for Diwali to clean your bulbs or tube lights. This should be done as often as possible. Similarly, when you start your geyser, you should start only when you are about to take bath, not 1 hour early as you get up in the morning and you're reading your newspaper or taking your morning tea. So you have to see that how to conserve electricity consumption of your house, so that it helps you also and it helps others. If you are not using power, naturally that power will be available for somebody else. It will be available for cottage industries in the villages, and somebody will earn money because of that. Well, the consumer interface with distribution utility is shown here. The management we have talked, payments, convenience, you have to see that. Now of course, as we were talking again of ICT, why we are talking, the internet has really revolutionized the world. You can now pay any bill sitting at home, and you can use your credit cards or whatever. They have opened many outlets also in every city, so that you go there and easy payments, whether it is a cell phone bill or electricity bill or telephone bill or your cell phone bill, you can go and pay there. So they are trying to make your life as easy as possible so that you feel happy and get satisfied. So billing is very important part of consumer and distribution reform. Meters, we have already talked about it. Meters had to be, the electronic meters have been developed, which is not easy to tamper with, and they give the correct reading. And the proper R&D is going on. And staff behavior, you have to have a service with a smile. When you go to any particular company, whether it is a distribution company, see, the reforms have divided the earlier companies or monopolistic companies into several companies: Genco, Transco, and distribution company. Genco will give a sort of your availability of private persons, independent power producers, IPP. So anybody can now produce power, because thanks to the electricity bill 2003 and power reforms, and they can give it to transmission, which is open access. The same transmission line is available now to everybody to transmit power, so that you don't have to really worry and install your own transmission line, which is very costly. As I told you, 4 crore per megawatt is needed to transmit electric power. Now, to build a transmission line is not easy. It's a very highly capital intensive thing, and that's why the existing transmission lines had to be used by several electric companies, so that power gets to the distribution company, and later on that distribution company will further distribute it to the area in which that distribution company is working. So this is an important aspect of a reform, that how to get power, from where to get power, and once power is generated, you have to purchase it in a bulk. And there is a APT, another thing has come, the availability based tariff. If you go to load dispatch centers, let me explain you what is the concept of load dispatch center. The concept of load dispatch center is, in Delhi it is near in Katwara Sarai, that's a computer control of power systems. Everything is through computer. So whatever power you need, that has to be forecasted 1 day in advance for tomorrow, and then only the power utility will generate power accordingly, and that generation of power then will be distributed and transmitted and distributed. SCADA, I think SCADA you must have studied, the supervisory control and data acquisition system. How do you control? See, there are controllers. There are earlier controllers were proportionate control, PI control, and PID control, but now there are smart controllers. You must have heard about smart card. The same card can be used as the driving license, for income tax purposes, for entry purposes, and your identity card. So similarly, smart control, the adaptive control, the intelligent control. Artificial intelligence techniques are being applied everywhere. You must have heard of expert system. You must have heard of robotics. Now robots are doing complicated operation, and the guidance is coming from all the way from US. You can look at your monitor and somebody tells you what you should do. Same things can be used in power sectors also. The intelligent control, the smart control. How do you control the frequency? How do you control the voltage? How do you control? Power factor is another important factor which has to be properly controlled. All of you must have heard about or read about power factor. It should be 0.8 power factor leading the minimum. How do you bring it? As soon as you use load, the power factor goes down, like voltage goes down. And loads have to be used. So what for you get a power? To use it. Once you put, you must have seen your houses, the moment you start a bulb, another bulb, it gets dim because the voltage gets lower. And this is called voltage flicker, voltage sag. Now how do you control it? By having the proper power factor. And power factor can be improved by putting capacitors in series or in shunt. Now this is a R&D problem. How much of capacitance, where and when? And these three can be solved by your project when you do your projects. and optimization techniques can be used to find out the location of compensation. And in distribution sector also, as it is more important than transmission, since it is directly connected to the people, and they have to see that they get the proper power, proper amount of power, quality of power. The power factor should lie between 0.8 power factor leading to certain power factor leading. The voltage variation should be plus minus 0.5%. The frequency should vary plus minus 0.5 hertz, and if it is not doing, it's your duty to get it in the proper way. There is another school of thought in the world. We give the raw power to the consumer. Raw power means as you generate, and let consumer bring it to a proper quality as per his requirement. Every consumer in a village or urban sector has his or her own requirement. So we give a cheaper rate power to him or her, and then it is her or his duty to bring it to proper level. Required harmonics, required power factor, required voltage, and let him or her spend the money on that, and we give power at a lower rate. That is working very well in Western countries, and there is no reason why something which works outside India cannot work in India also. This is another school of thought. Well, once you generate, as I said, whether you generate by thermal, by hydro, or by nuclear, you have to put it into the grid, and that generation is done by NTPC, NHPC, and private power generations. And even we are thinking of having the SAR grid, the connection of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and other countries with India, so that when we can have a sport exchange, we can have the cinema or TV program exchange, why not have a power exchange with Pakistan, with Bangladesh. In fact, Bangladesh has a lot of hydropower, and we can take their power and we can give them in return something else, and that's what called wheeling power. See, we take power from some private person, we give him some other place. For example, somebody has a station in Gwalior and he needs power in Delhi. So we take power from him in Gwalior and we give him in Delhi. This is called banking and wheeling of electric power. This is another aspect of one of the power reforms. So rather than paying money there, we don't pay him money. It's a barter system. We take power from somewhere, from some place, and we give him back where he needs it and where we have a surplus. And that can work in a distribution sector also in a particular way, and we are working in that direction also. When you go for a transmission sector or distribution sector, the problems are similar, the nature is different. For example, there are faults. The transmission line faults, the transmission line goes for 1,000 kilometers, whereas distribution is limited to a particular area, and there to identify fault and fault diagnosis is not easy in transmission. But in distribution sector is easy, it's a small sector, so we don't want to allow faults to take place. And what are the different types of faults? Line to ground, line to line fault, line to ground faults. The most severe fault is all three lines getting grounded. So if all three phase lines are grounded, no power transfer is possible. That should never happen. So we had to have protection system. And now protection is also done by numerical relays and computers. So once you apply a computer, see that the current is below a certain limit. If not, the overcurrent relay should operate. So these relays should be very much secured, very much reliable, so that when you need to operate, they must operate. And corrective action must be taken by using circuit breakers. So it's all very complex system, the power system, right from generation, transmission to distribution to consumer. And consumer has several duties to do. Don't think that consumer has no duty. Reform doesn't mean consumer cannot do anything. He has to see that the power coming to his premises is proper. If not, he can also apply the corrective actions, as I had told you during the course of this talk. So that's the important point to do. And we were talking about the load dispatch centers. So supervisory control and data acquisition system. We must get data from the particular system in which that load dispatch center is responsible. And there is a vertical thing passing to various stations. So we are interconnected. See, networking is the key thing of ICT. As someone has said, if you are not networking, you are not working. So we are connected with all the sort of stations, all the load dispatch centers all the time. So we have to see that the reforms work very well. See, in order that in this country something works very well, you have to do a lot of efforts and use the available technologies like computers, internet, we have HVDC, SVS, the fax technology, and will to work. We should have a good willpower, and India has shown to the world when it is firm determination is there, it can work. Believe me, Indians are doing all over the world so well, so there are no reason why they can't do equally well in their own country. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Could you please highlight the distribution, this restructuring of distribution sector?
Well, the restructuring of distribution is, again the private people will come and they will distribute to the sub-distribution level and distribution level and sub-distribution level. And the main thing is, whatever power is going to wherever premises, whether it is the houses or industries, we have to get the money from them. With the billing should be proper, the metering should be proper, so that the consumer also feels happy he is paying right bills. Normally people complain of the bills are inflated and so on, so that complaint should not come. That's a very important aspect of a reform, that is the billing and metering. And of course the power quality, which we have been talking throughout, the quality of the power, because once somebody is paid, he should get the proper quality power, the voltage, the power factor, the harmonics. Since the introduction of computers has brought certain bad things also. It gives a non-linear loads that creates harmonics. The harmonics can be removed. There is a factor called THD, total harmonic distortion should be less than 5%. How do you achieve that? By having proper filters, active filters, passive filters. There are sensorless sensors. So the sensors will find out the harmonics, and we have to remove those harmonics. Any other question?
Yeah. Any other question from the floor? Yeah. And if you have any query, you can ask any question.
Most welcome.
And please highlight the role of IT in distribution sector.
Yeah. The information technology, or ICT as it's now popularly known, information and communication technology. See, we have to communicate each data. There is no point in having a particular sector restricting data. Data should be available to the whole system, the whole India, anywhere should the SCADA is used there. So the internet is now used for getting the data, what is happening in a particular distribution sector, what sort of power is going there, is it adequate or not. If it is not adequate, you have to immediately go to the load dispatch center and carry out AGC studies, automatic generation control. You may have to decrease or increase the steam supply to the turbine so that proper generation is maintained. And there is if it is a hydropower plant, then a gate opening, how much gate is to be opened, how much water is to be released. That's a very important control thing, because the hydropower depends on the water discharge and the head. So available head and water discharge, when you multiply, you get a hydropower. So hydropower control is equally important, because India has 24% hydropower, 72% thermal power, 3% nuclear and 1% non-conventional energy sources.
So friends, this talk by the Professor Kothari was very informative and interesting, and I hope this talk would help you immensely in effective learning and functioning. And I express my sincere gratitude to Professor D.P. Kothari, who has shared his valuable time with us and enlightened us on various aspects of the energy scenario and the distribution reforms, and shared a lot of information with us. Thank you, sir. And I express my sincere thanks to all the learners and the viewers. Thank you. Wish you all the very best for your studies.